Backes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. As Minister for Gender Equality and Diversity, it's of course a great honor for me to just say a few introductory words, and just for a couple of minutes I will not be speaking about defense nor mobility, but I haven't spoken for a long time on capital markets, but just a few introductory words from my side, because the discussion on how capital markets can be really a thriving force for gender equality and women's economic empowerment is absolutely essential. Around the globe, women continue to face barriers to economic participation, from unequal pay to limited access to capital. But the evidence is undeniable. When women thrive, economies thrive. I think it's pretty straightforward. Finance has the power to drive meaningful societal change. Capital markets are uniquely positioned to lead this transformation. By leveraging financial instruments, impact investments, and inclusive capital strategies, we can create ecosystems that empower women and foster sustainable economic growth. That's what we want. Promoting gender equality is not just a moral obligation, it's not just about fairness, but it's also an economic imperative. Research has consistently shown that companies with more women in senior management positions are more likely to outperform their peers in profitability and productivity. As Christine Lagarde also often says, pointing to studies that show that gender diversity in leadership also tends to lower a company's carbon footprint, so everything is linked. Women should be at the table because it is the absolute smart thing to do. As a leading international financial center, Luxembourg must be at the forefront of this transformation. We have a responsibility to lead by example and to create also a financial ecosystem that champions diversity and that champions inclusion. So we must leverage this position to drive meaningful change, ensuring that our financial institutions reflect the diversity of the societies that they serve. It's about building a resilient and a competitive economy for the future. Allow me to just take this opportunity to highlight two partnerships that embody also Luxembourg's commitment to this vision. Both were launched in my former capacity. As my good friend also knows, dear Nadia, when I was a former finance minister, together with you in the previous government, and I'm also very happy that my successor is taking these forward. Firstly, and this now marks the second anniversary of the Women in Finance Charter in Luxembourg that was launched on International Women's Day 2023, and also Julie from CEO of the Stock Exchange in Luxembourg, you were there at the time. This charter was more than just a declaration of intent. It was really a call for action. I think in everything we do, that's what's really essential. The Charter underpins the collective commitment of our financial sector to achieving greater gender equality, particularly in decision-making positions. The fact that more than 70 financial institutions have signed up is really a really clear commitment to what we need to do, and a testament to the willingness to really drive change. the task force that was also set up at the time, which is continuing. Also, the work is essential in this regard. I also met, this is my second point, with Jessica Espinosa. I think it was supposed to be on the panel, but is being replaced now. Also in my previous capacity, and since then the government of Luxembourg is also really a proud supporter of 2X Global in its mission to empower women entrepreneurs and gender-smart businesses. And this support also reflects our very strong belief in the power of gender finance to improve lives, strengthen societies, and to strengthen our economies. 2X Global mobilized over $30 billion to support gender equality and women's economic empowerment. But to truly sustain the momentum, we must continue to support and scale such initiatives. We should foster and continue to foster an environment where gender-lens investing becomes a norm rather than a simple exception. Also, gender finance focused bonds, something I'm very proud of, which has been launched in Luxembourg. This was in May 2022 by an MOU between the Luxembourg Stock Exchange and UN Women. And this is really another way to mobilize capital flows to meaningfully contribute to SDG number 5, which is absolutely essential. We try to also create a more peaceful world, something rather difficult these days to talk about, but SDG number 5 for me remains absolutely pivotal. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we all agree, and that's why you are so many here today, our work is far from done. We must proceed with renewed determination. Achieving gender equality, it's a journey that requires continuous effort, accountability, and also collaboration between all different sectors. And capital markets play a crucial role here. We know that by allocating capital towards businesses and initiatives that promote women's economic empowerment, we can accelerate positive change. That's what we want to do. We need positive change. When investors and financial institutions apply a gender lens to their investment decisions, they help build stronger and more sustainable businesses. So we must continue to harness the power of capital markets to break down barriers and to create really lasting opportunities also for women. Allow me to conclude by saying a very big thank you to the EIB for its important efforts in promoting gender equality. There could not be anybody better at its head to promote gender equality. And you can, of course, count on Luxembourg's continued support in a world where we see increased backlash, also increased pushbacks against women and against minority rights. And I hope that we can all together push back against these pushbacks and that we can all together shape a future where gender equality is not simply an ambition, a perspective for the long term, but something that we want to happen as soon as possible, that we want to become a reality. So I thank you very much for being here, so numerous today. Thank you to the EIB and to all the partners for this very important topic and the discussions, and I wish you a successful and very interesting panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister Backes, and it's lovely to have you in the room. As you mentioned, we also have Julie Becker, who is well known to anybody who lives in Luxembourg. She is the CEO of the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, and she is going to moderate the next panel. So please welcome Julie Becker and her panel to the stage, which are Cyril Rousseau, the Director General at the European Investment Bank, Jen Braswell, Founding Director of 2X Global, and Inez Murray, Chief Executive Officer for Financial Alliance for Women.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, or good evening almost. It's a real honor to moderate this panel around a topic which is extremely close to my heart, gender finance, and more specifically, how capital markets can support gender equality and women's economic empowerment. I'd like also to thank deeply EIB for offering us this platform to discuss this very important topic ahead of the International Women's Day. In today's world, as President Calvino said this morning, we are back to basics. And indeed, the rights of women are unfortunately increasingly under threat. And the geopolitical context in many regions of the world, both emerging markets and developed economies, poses significant challenges to gender equality. So the importance of gender finance cannot be overstated. You may be interested to know that women around the world enjoy less than 2/3 of the legal rights available to men on average, which limits, of course, their ability to work, earn equal pay for equal job, and start a business. But Minister Backes just said it, and I'd like to repeat it. Gender equality is not just a matter of fairness, it's an economic imperative. It's a crucial component of economic growth. And in Europe, improving gender equality could lead to a 9.6% increase in EU GDP. 9.6% increase. Globally, the world is losing out on $7 trillion of economic gains annually due to low representation of women in the workforce. There are lots of points to cover today, and I'd like to dive right in on the importance of investing to promote gender equality and women's economic empowerment. So first, let me address a question to Jen. Jen, the 2X challenge was launched at the G7 Summit 2018 as a bold commitment of development and multilateral financial institutions to invest in the world's women. And since then, the flagship initiative has raised gender-lens investments totaling almost $34 billion. So to get the conversation started today, Jen, could you please define in one sentence what gender finance is and tell us why it makes sense from a societal point of view to promote gender equality and women's economic empowerment? And of course, I'm also very much interested, like the audience, I'm sure, to know how much investment is needed in this context.
Super. Thank you very much, Julie. So gender lens investing, or gender finance, simply put, and with broad brushstrokes, are investment strategies that seek to drive capital towards investments, companies, portfolios that materially support women, either through products and services, so thematic investing in areas such as women's health or care economy, or through how companies operate. And it is that last piece, looking at how companies operate, where there can be real value creation, and where focused and intentional activities as an investor, as a corporate leader, can really drive company value. And that's where I think we can start to really quantify what gender lens investing means in the market, particularly in private market transactions, where this lens isn't often applied, but could be. And certainly, as we're looking at more public market transactions, the overarching value of a company, because it supports women in leadership, in workforce, and through its products and services, should be something that is materially valued by the markets.
Thank you very much, Jen. So we need to be able to assess the real value creation. We need to quantify the impact, and that's obviously very important to be able to mobilize investment and encourage investors. And I think it's indeed crucial to engage a full spectrum of investors, capital providers, mobilizers, but also influencers, and to level up gender smart investment. And this is the reason why at the Luxembourg Stock Exchange back in 2022, as Minister Backes just underlined, we partner with UN Women to, and we decided to flag gender-focused bonds that allocate part or all of their financing to projects that advance gender equality or empower women and girls. And one aspect of gender finance is financing women-led businesses. And we have seen a very concrete example that put in practice all of this in Africa with a gender-focused bond listed on the Luxembourg Stock Exchange and displayed on the Green Exchange. And these bonds come from NMB in Tanzania, and it was the first one to emerge in sub-Saharan Africa. And it provided around 3,000 women in Tanzania with access to the financing they need to start or grow their business. So turning to Inez. Inez, the Financial Alliance for Women is a non-for-profit organization working as an international consortium of financial institutions interested in the female economy. Its members, I think, work in more than 130 countries to build programs that support women with access to capital, education, and markets. Some are located in regions such as sub-Saharan Africa, which has, by the way, the highest levels of women-led businesses. However, we see that these businesses have the least access to financing. So could you share the experience of your members in supporting these women-owned and led businesses?
Sure, thank you very much for the opportunity and to the IIB team of sharing the experience of the network. So we have about 100 members around the world, and several of them are EIB investees, including in sub-Saharan Africa. And our members are all offering women a comprehensive value proposition that includes not just access to finance, but access to business and financial education, to networking, to recognition, to making women visible, because often actually girls don't see themselves as entrepreneurs, and it's super, super important that they do in order to think bigger, if you like. And the members track their data, because obviously if you're running a business, you need to be able to prove the business case. And we then aggregate that data, and they report this voluntarily, but we aggregate the data. And they're working with many of the IFIs, so all of this is cross-verified and so on. And what that data actually shows now is, we've just produced a new report on last year's data, that we're reaching 198 million women, so only 55 members are currently reporting, that we are lending a vast amount of money, that the growth rate in lending to women SMEs, it's growing at 12% CAGR between 2020 and 2023 versus in the retail segment. So women entrepreneurs, which is a common segment across all our members, is actually the highest growth segment. And that's deliberate, really, because they're now targeting women entrepreneurs, because they're seeing the return on investment. And when you think about a woman entrepreneur, you're not just about repaying the loan back, which women do, by the way, in all loan categories, whether that's consumer or mortgages or retail more broadly, or car loans or anything like that. The NPLs are lower in every single loan category, and it has been for the last 8 years that the members have been reporting data. But we're also finding that women's, in microfinance, the average loan is now 95% of a male loan, and in SME, it's now 75% of a male loan. It's still not 100%, which is where we want to go, but you're seeing those loan volumes increase as women have more confidence, they're asking for more money, they're getting that education, which is about leverage and why you would go to a bank in the first place, and really getting them to move along the trajectory of using finance in a more productive way to grow their businesses. And this is what we want to see. We're also seeing lovely statistics like net promoter scores is much higher now for women than it is for men. And that's a really important metric for a bank, because what that's saying is you're a satisfied customer. And there's data from Australia, actually, that if a woman is satisfied with her bank, she'll tell 9 more women that she's satisfied. If she's dissatisfied, she'll tell 44 women. So getting those NPS scores up is a really important thing for a bank because it lowers your cost of customer acquisition. So lots of really great metrics coming through. And then from EIB's perspective, as you're now going to be issuing bonds and so on with gender tags, you know, we have really good data on their members' performance. If you look at KCB, Kenya Commercial Bank in Kenya, it lends money on a cash flow-based lending approach to 500,000 Kenyan women, and a further 300,000 are now coming into the bank through digital financial services. So that's a major contribution to the Kenyan economy. And this is something we need to replicate in a lot more countries. So that's the business case. And I think, you know, we can't not talk about the business case because that's really what bankers care about, and rightly so. I think the final point I would say is it's not just about lending the money, right? It is about building their capability as entrepreneurs and enabling them to really fulfill the destiny, which is that we should see gender equality in number of startups and growth and so on. And if we do, we'll have hugely beneficial, as you've mentioned, impact on the GDP. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inez. Continuing with you, because you mentioned the need for investors to mobilize investment, to track the data, to make sure that they manage to prove business case. And I think in this context, the Financial Alliance for Women developed tools to help financial institutions identify opportunities and also build business cases targeting women. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, we do actually, well, basically what we do is we mobilize our members to teach each other about how to do this well, because bankers really do convince each other, and we offer learning services that enable them to do that. I think one of the most important programs we offer is on how do you gender, or rather sex disaggregate your data at the portfolio level. In order to do that, you have to have a definition of women-owned led businesses and so on. But it's quite deep to be able to do that. And in order for banks to make the decision that they're going to track that data, which they have to be successful in this market, they really have to see the business case. So it's a kind of two sides of the equation is really, you know, they have to see the business case in order to think about doing it. They need a bit of a push from the IFIs to kind of enable them to actually earmark some funding for that purpose. And once they start tracking the data, they start seeing the business case, and then year on, they're actually getting more investment and more dollars into the system. So yeah, we do offer a fair amount of services. You can look at those on our website. But I think the main point is we know how to do this. We just need more institutions to do it.
Thank you, Inez. I think that's the most important words indeed. We need more institutions to track the data and the impact they are contributing to. And in this context, Jen, the 2X challenge is underpinned by the 2X criteria. So to mobilize investment, we just heard that we need to be able to identify investment opportunity, to build business cases and to report. But we also need standards. And the 2X criteria is a global industry standard for processing, structuring, and monitoring gender finance investments. And this standard has played a very important role in building the field of GLI, gender lens investing. And today, hundreds of companies and institutions in the world use the 2X as a global reference standard. So could you please explain us how important are these standards to help driving more finance in support of women's economic empowerment? Can you share your experience from 2X Global and also explain how you measure impact?
So 2X started in 2018 when several development finance institutions came together with the intention to invest together in investments that support women. But the definitions and the shared understanding of what that meant just didn't exist. So we worked together to create the initial 2X framework, which allowed all of the institutions to have a shared understanding and to feel confident that the investments that were being earmarked as gender-smart investments really did meet a standard test. And that was critical, voluntary in the beginning, but critical to begin to allow these investors to begin to invest together and to begin to share their data, because we could then start to apply these criteria in the investment process. And it was both within financial institutions who were lending to women-owned businesses or businesses that were deemed gender smart based on these criteria, and also to equity investments, both through fund management intermediaries as well as direct investments. And I would say particularly for equity investing, in order to develop impact strategies that have a gender lens, it's very, very important to identify what that means. And without the standard, there can be, I think, a lack of confidence amongst fund managers to start and develop these types of strategies. So having the standard is critical in order to give both the GPs confidence and the LPs confidence that there is a credible basis for determining that an investment in a company is on the pathway to becoming gender smart. And you can set all kinds of incentives, both for the fund management teams, as well as the management teams and companies around these goals and standards with KPIs. So quite important to have the simple shared definitions. Now we're going to the next phase. So last year, 2X Global launched the 2X certification mechanism, which is a bit analogous to the B Corp mechanism. It allows for third-party verification of a company, a fund manager, or a financial institution based on application of the criteria. And it also allows for some tiering. So there are tiers of maturity that you can also then track progress from early immature stages all the way through to final gender smart businesses. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that should be the labeling that will allow us to develop the quantification and the links, the quantitative links to performance. So between the metrics of where and how women participate in the businesses to how those businesses are performing commercially.
Thank you, Jen. So the 2X criteria not only provide the much-needed unified framework for investors, but also ensure that impact investments and gender-focused bonds truly deliver on their promises. And you now also provide the 2X certification, which of course bring trust to the investor community and allow indeed to quantify impact. Last but not least, moving on to questions to Cyril. Cyril is, of course, representing the perspective of the EIB. And as you all know, EIB is financing its operation in global international markets. As a pioneer in the green and the sustainable bonds markets, the EIB has been increasing its issuance base and passed the 100 million euro mark of CAB and SAB issuance in August 2024. Billion, of course. According to you, Cyril, from the issuer point of view, what is the biggest challenge in mobilizing capital markets to invest in gender equality and women's economic empowerment? We just heard about investors, what they need to be mobilized. What's the position of the issuer in this context?
So the EIB is investing in gender equality and women's economic empowerment for a bank whose purpose is to try to boost the potential growth within the union and beyond. It's an evidence, it's a no-brainer to invest in gender equality. But so far, we have been doing it using only our credit through our general funding program. And indeed, we have this experience you mentioned of trying to go beyond and to actually, through our issuance, help develop ecosystems that help channel through capital market investments toward impact. And you asked me about what are the challenges in order to do that. Well, basically the challenge, first you have to have an agreement with investors on what you are doing. So it's about having a shared language, a shared definition. Then the other element is you actually have to deliver on that. You have to have the capacity to actually have an impact on the activities you told investors that you are going to fund, and to demonstrate it. And then the last point is that investors have to believe you. And you have to find ways to prove them that you are trustful. So those three elements, we have developed experience over time. We have started with the green bonds, and now this market is a multi-trillion market. We have developed sustainability awareness bond basically at the same time that the 2X initiative started in 2018. But at that time, we didn't include SDG 5. And now, thanks to the common language that has been developed, we now have the tools to include SDG 5 within our sustainability awareness program. So basically, if I look at my three conditions, the first one, thanks to the hard work on 2X, we now have the criteria that make it possible to have a shared language with investors on gender finance, and actually, we are now going to use the 2X criteria on women economic empowerment. We are also going to use another standard for gender equality, which is the OECD Development Assistance Committee standard. Regarding delivery, we have built the track record. We have invested for years in gender equality, so now we know the challenge to get the data. Thanks to the work that is being done in Inez, we now can collect those data and are confident that we are able to report on the impact of our project. And then the last point, we need to convince people. And so here we have an approach, which is the same we are using for green bonds, which is to use an external auditor. So basically, we have put in place processes on how we select the project, how we allocate the fund, how we report on the fund, and we have assurance, and actually the highest level of assurance, reasonable assurances that are delivered by an external auditor so that investors can be confident that when we report on how we have allocated the fund for gender equality and women economic empowerment, it has been independently and externally checked. So now all of the conditions are met so that we can extend our sustainability awareness bond program to gender equality and women economic empowerment. And through that, we'll be able to benefit from a program which is a multi-currency program, which has included and which has been open for investors from Mexico to Australia, a lot of European investors, of course, but we have also have launched operation in Sweden, in Norway, in the United Kingdom, and so we'll use this investor base and put it to the benefit of our action in gender equality and women economic empowerment.
Thank you very much, Cyril. What a news. Well, I think we can really congratulate warmly EIB on leading the way by extending the Sustainability Awareness Bond framework to 2 new social objectives, gender equality and women's economic empowerment. Congratulations. As you mentioned, we need robust and relevant eligibility criteria. We also need transparency, and these bonds will provide, of course, detailed reports on how funds are used, which is extremely important, and as I think it was already outlined during the panel discussion, but also how results are achieved. And this is also very important to be able to demonstrate this to investors. All of this, of course, as you said, aligning with international guidelines and criteria. We at the Luxembourg Stock Exchange obviously look very much forward listing a first sustainability awareness bond with a gender objective on our market soon. Before wrapping up, I'd like to open the floor to questions, if there are any in the audience. We still have a few minutes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much for this fascinating session. Just to introduce myself, my name is Fidanka Bacevo-McGrath, and I work for C Bankwatch Network. It's really amazing to hear about quantification of impact and impact measurement, verification, and certification. And it was also important to say that this measurement is done against a strategy. My question is to the EIB. The EIB gender strategy is from 2016. It's perhaps a little bit out of date. So the question is, will there be an update to that strategy and when? Thank you.
So I confirm that there is going to be an update. Christoph confirmed that it is going to take place this year. So in 2025, we are going to update the gender strategy.
Any other question in the room? So let me conclude quickly that the actions that EIB, 2X, Financial Alliance for Women and the Luxembourg Stock Exchange are taking to advance gender equality, to capitalize on women in the fight against climate change and social exclusion, matter more than ever. And I'd like to launch a call for action. We need you, we need more partners to strengthen our efforts and keep driving progress towards equality, rights, and empowerment for all women and girls. And now let me invite to the floor Mr. Christoph Kuhn, Director General, Project Directorate, to wrap up the session. Christoph, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Dear panel members, Jen, Inez, Cyril, for your insightful knowledge that you shared with us. And thank you very much, Julie, for moderating so well this panel. I have now the pleasure to wrap this panel up, and I understand that I'm probably also coming to, or concluding this event also for the day, because after this panel and after this session, we will finish the first day of the EIB Forum. I think we experienced now in this panel that we all share a very strong passion and a very strong vision on how gender finance could be and how we all should drive this agenda forward. The panel made very clear that there is a business case and there is an impact case for financing gender equality. And I think, as Minister Backes said in the very beginning, this is not only about doing what is right, this is also about doing what is smart and what opens new opportunities for everybody. But we also have to acknowledge that if we fully harness the benefits of more equal societies, we also must have all concerted efforts, and that means embrace a diverse range of financial instruments. And this includes that leveraging capital markets and adhering to gender lens investing standards, such as the 2X criteria, as we just heard so comprehensively, have to guide our action. We need a common language, we need common standards, and only through that we will mobilize private sector investors into this important topic. We in EIB, as a pioneer in green and sustainable bonds financing and the bonds market, we understand that capital markets can have a huge impact on our sustainability objectives in Europe, but also far beyond. Today, we have successfully issued 20 billion euros of sustainable awareness bonds, which have financed projects across the world to deliver vital environmental and social objectives, such as affordable housing, access to clean water, educational initiatives, and healthcare services, all that under these instruments. Today, we've also heard about the transformative potential of gender-focused bonds. It's, however, quite concerning that they currently account only for 2% of all listed sustainable bonds. This is not enough. And I think what we are doing today will hopefully open the door and be a catalyst for improving, indeed, also the share of these bonds in the marketplace, because that's what we need. With the extension of the sustainable awareness bonds to cover the two new objectives that Cyril just mentioned, gender equality being the first one, and then women's economic empowerment being the second one, we will underline that impact and we will open the space for more financing also under EIB bond issuances. This opening will now allow for two types of, say, financings to now also come under these bonds and basically broaden their application. The first one is that we can now, through intermediaries, put into the portfolio financings for female entrepreneurs and women-led businesses that address the staggering 1.7 trillion finance gap. We have problems today with millions, billions, and trillions. I'm sorry for that. And then the second type of projects, and that's equally important, is that we deliver products and services targeted at closing gender equality gaps. For example, the investment in Minervax, one of our individual projects that we financed, which aims to develop a novel maternal vaccine. These are typical projects that we can now include and that will boost the impact of these financings and hence will hopefully allow us to mobilize capital markets even more. I would like to also say that this morning, and I can say that Inez and Jen also joined us in that, we launched the Gender Finance Lab as EIB, which is an advisory package to indeed build capacity in financial institutions to do what we are doing today here, which is to promote gender finance and build an asset class and build a market for these financings. With this being said, I see that the bell has arrived, which was brought all the way up, I think, from Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Thank you so much, Julie, for that. And I understand that I can pass the word to the president of the EIB Group, Nadia Calvino, now, to commemorate this event and close this session with, I think I'm very happy also that Minister Backes is still here with us. And I should stop now. That's what I'm, okay, very good. I stop. Thank you very much.
I stand here. And Julie can also, and Yuriko, no? Yeah. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the session. It's been a very intense day, and I think everybody wants to go to the networking dinner. So let me just share 4 personal reasons which make this a very, very happy moment. Not only because I'm surrounded by wonderful, powerful women and fantastic men that are leading this agenda, but there are 4 reasons that make it very special. First of all, that we have just heard why gender equality is not only the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do. The business case is very strong. And so by moving the cursor and opening up these sustainability bonds to new areas that have to do with gender equality, we're actually contributing to more growth, more prosperity for the world. Second reason is that the European Investment Bank is absolutely committed to gender equality, which is at the heart of European values. And we were discussing in private how it seems revolutionary these days to say what Europe stands for: protection of minorities, gender equality, peace and respect, trying to have win-win solutions and win-win agreements with our partners around the world. So it's very good, and that's the second reason that we're really symbolizing one of European values. Thirdly, it's very good that we're also representing the partnership we have with the Luxembourg Stock Exchange. It's been a journey, a very intense and very successful journey. This 100 billion milestone we marked last year, very recently, and now we want to do more. And I'm really happy that the EIB continues to be a pioneer that can contribute to also place the Luxembourg Stock Exchange as a pioneer and as a reference stock exchange for bonds and fixed income markets that are exploring new territories. No, that's the 4th reason. And then the 5th and final reason is that we get to ring the bell again, which makes it really special that in this very serious environment and after such an intense day of debate, we can close it with some music, you know, and a nice sound. So thank you very much to all those that have made it possible, and let's ring the bell, should we?
Thank you so much, everybody. And whilst photos are being taken, and thank you to all of the panelists today, thank you for still being here in this wonderful cocoon we have created inside the Luxembourg Convention Centre, but you are now released to see if there is daylight outside, and also for the reception. And tomorrow morning we will start at 9:25. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.